This is Unit 4, Lesson 7, Percents, Day 1. A percent is simply a ratio that compares a number to 100. To write a percent as a fraction, we're going to express the ratio as a fraction with a denominator of 100. And then simplify it if possible. For example, 60% means 60 out of 100. And written as a fraction, 60 over 100, and that simplifies if we divide by 20 to 3/5. Now, recall there are two methods for changing a fraction to a percent. Here we are. We've got a fraction 1/4. One way is to multiply to change the denominator into 100. So I multiply by 25 over 25, and that gives me 25 over 100. Therefore, we know it's 25%, because 25 out of 100. The second method, here's our fraction. We can simply divide it on the calculator. The numerator divided by the denominator. 1 divided by 4 comes out 0.25, and so we're going to look at the two places after the decimal as our percent. So that's 25%. You can use either method, whichever you're most comfortable with. All right, we're going to be solving some problems now where we have some missing information. We're going to utilize a proportion called the percent proportion. It has two parts, of course, because a proportion is two ratios equal to one another. So one ratio compares part of a quantity to the whole quantity. You see that here, part to the whole. And the other ratio is the equivalent percent written as a fraction with a denominator of 100. So there's our proportion, part to whole equals percent to 100. Here's another way of looking at it, and you can see the fonts in here correlate with my sentence. Some number, the part, is some percent, the percent, of some number, the whole. So you can see the part is in the numerator, the whole is in the denominator, and then the percent is the other ratio. All right, let's try some problems. 15 is what percent of 50? So the very first thing I do with any problem like this is I write my proportion, fractions, and equal sign. Before I do anything else, I write that, and then I start filling in the numbers. So the first thing I know is that I'm going to have a percent as one of my ratios, and so I write 100 in the denominator. Now, for some reason, I like to put mine on the right, but it doesn't really matter. You could put yours on the left. So I'm going to look in my question for the percent. And you can see here it says, what percent? We don't know what the percent is, so that's going to be our variable. So I put the x in the numerator because we don't know what percent. Then I look for the word of. The number following of is what my whole value is, so that's going to go in the denominator of the other fraction. And then the leftover number, 15, that goes in the numerator. Now I've got a proportion, and you guys are expert at solving those already, so we're going to go ahead and cross multiply to solve. So I come up with x is 30, and then I can rewrite my sentence saying 15 is 30% of 50. Now it's important when you write the answer on a quiz or test, you're going to just be putting 30 in the answer blank, but when the question asks what percent, it's very important that you write the percent symbol. You need to write 30% as your answer. Let's try another one. What is 35% of 180? First step, of course, write our proportion. There we go. We've got the two fraction bars and the equal sign in between. Now I'm going to look for the percent. I know it's going to be over 100, so I put the 100 there first, then I look for my percent. 35%, so I know it's 35 over 100. I write that in. Then I look for the of 180, so I know that's the whole, that goes on the bottom in the denominator, and then what's the other thing that's left over? It says what? So we don't know what it is, so we put x in its place. Now we cross multiply. X equals 63. So I know that 63 is 35% of 180. One more example. 45 is 18% of what number? Always start out with a proportion. Something's going to be over 100, so I look for the percent, 18%. So I put the 18 in the numerator. Then I look for my of for the whole value. Of what number? We don't know what the whole value is. X goes in the denominator. So what's left over is 45. 45 goes in the numerator. Cross multiply. So we have x equals 250. So we know that 45 is 18% of 250. All right, example 4, I'd like you to give it a try. So pause the video and go ahead and do this one, and then come back and see how you did. All right, let's take a look. Here's our proportion. 27 is what percent of 135? So we don't know the percent, so that's x over 100. Of 135 goes in the denominator, 27 goes in the numerator. We cross multiply, we get x equals 20. So 27 is 20% of 135. Remember, when you write that answer, you need to write the percent sign, 20%. Sample 5, try another one. Pause the video, give it a shot. All right, let's see how you did. There's our proportion. Cross multiply. 142.8 is 42% of 340. One more. All right, let's take a look. There's our proportion. 63 is 35% of what number? We cross multiply. 63 is 5% of 180. That's it. Put your note sheet in your binder. I will see you tomorrow.